This week, all the teachers start our review videos. This is new for all of us. It's new for me. It's new for you guys. Please continue to be flexible, to be patient. We're trusting you to give your best efforts. Try to maintain a dialogue with me and all your other teachers. We want to hear from you. Email us, contact us, however, comment. As always, participate as much as you can. It makes the class better for me. It makes it better for you. It makes it better for your classmates. Feel free to share feedback with myself and your other teachers. Let us know what's working, what's not. Share resources with us. Answer for my videos. I'm going to try to have bell ringers and review questions for you to answer in the comments. For today's video, we're going to go over Chapter 1, just an introduction to civics. My bell ringer questions I want to ask you, and I'd love for you guys to comment below. Two things. Well, two long questions. What is government exactly? Why do we need it? Why should we even pay attention to it? Like, what's the benefit? Who cares? My other question, number 2, is what are some good measurements of a country? This is a big one. I think you should really put some thought into, maybe do some research on your own. We've definitely talked about it in class before, because every politician, it's not just the executive branch, these politicians point to these measurements that'll definitely showcase them and make them look good. And sometimes it's directly in their control, but then sometimes politicians will say, look at this number, look how good this number is, even though they might have had nothing or very little to do with that number. And in fact, sometimes they also point to numbers that maybe sound like they're a good measurement, but they're not. For instance, Forbes magazine always talks about how good this country is doing because they've like McDonald's. When maybe they should look at like life expectancy or access to clean water, access to internet, literacy rates, and there's so many other things. So I just gave you some examples, so you can't use those. What are some examples of good measurements of a country? So hopefully at this point you are starting to comment below. You don't have to submit it yet because I do have review questions at the end. We should be able to answer the question, why should we even study civics? In general, and what our framers thought was that in order to have a good, effective government and a good, effective society, that we need an educated population. We need a population that is critical to government as well. Even in the Declaration of Independence, it lets us know that government in general is not this like sacred entity, that people aren't perfect and we will make mistakes. But as long as we have a population that pays attention and cares, can make it as best as possible. In general, one of the purposes of public education, like why you're even at school, is to produce good citizens. And one of the outcomes of studying civics is to just have a richer and more engaged view. So civics is the study of citizenship, government, and what it means to be a citizen. A citizen is a legally recognized member of a country. Luckily, in our country, our citizens have plenty of rights, but also plenty of responsibility if they want it. There is a difference between rights, there's a difference between duties, and there's also a difference between responsibilities. Duties, for instance, would be that you need to obey the law. And part of that is that you actually have to understand what the law is. It is your duty to pay taxes, to serve in the military if you are called on, such as a draft, serve on juries or as a witness. And if you don't perform these duties, you could get in trouble. Responsibilities are things that you don't need to do, but you should do if you're a good citizen, if you want to contribute even minimally to make things better. Some examples are registering to vote, to run for office. If you don't like what somebody's doing, instead of saying something bad on Facebook, you could do it yourself. To communicate with government, to write to them, to call in, to petition, to make a Facebook comment on their post. That's technically becoming involved in the political process. To volunteer, to do community service. We have plenty of students at our school that do a great job with this. And even at the very least, just to stay current with what's going on in the world. This is why we do current events so much in this class, and I think everybody should. You should pay attention on what's going on. You should make sure that you're looking at a wide range of media outlets, because So much of our media today is bias. This is not me making up stuff. I think anybody would agree to that. Clearly, if you get your news from Fox News, they have a certain slant. Same with CNN, they have a certain slant. So my advice, and I think this is very sound advice, is why don't you look at both, and why don't you go beyond looking at both? Go look at what um, BBC is saying. Go check out The Guardian. Go check out some independent media. And then looking at all these different truths on the same issue, let's say it's on Trump this, okay, well, Fox is going to say something, CNN is going to say something, go look at some independent media, and then after you check out everything, you can find out a better version of the truth. But that is a lot of reading. But if you want to actually be knowledgeable, that's what you need to do. So our definition of government is the organizations, institutions, and individuals that exercise political authority over a group of people. In our country, we have many people that complain about politicians, that complain about government or even other issues, but a lot of people don't actually become involved at all. And that's part of being a good citizen, is to not just say something that does have its purpose, but to sometimes you need to actually do something. And it could be something little. It could be just even sharing a post, sharing credible information, maybe doing a GoFundMe. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. But as always, paying attention to what's going on, paying attention to politicians, government, understanding how they work is crucial for our society, for our democracy, because government does play a huge role in our lives, and these decisions impact us. Maybe it's at the federal level, maybe it's at the state level, maybe the local level, but this does impact us, so we should know a little bit about it, and that's another reason why we should study civics. One other thing that we were going over in Chapter 1 and Section 1 was just locating information, forming good sound opinions. This is one of my favorite quotes from James Lowen. His quote reads, "People have a right to their own opinions, but not their own facts. Evidence must be located, not created. And opinions not backed by evidence cannot be given much weight." And I personally love this, and I think throughout this class and throughout the year and throughout your lives as critical citizens, that you should really understand this and exemplify this quote. From there, we can move on to U.S. values. Our fundamental values are equality, liberty, and justice for all. In our country, all people are equal, at least under the law, and all people's rights are equal. Now, that's not to say that people aren't better at certain things, because they definitely are. That's why we have a hierarchy in everything we do. Like LeBron James, yeah, he's number one. But it doesn't mean he's better than any other person. He's just better at that job, basketball. These values that we have, equality, liberty, and justice, have lasted throughout the centuries. And when we stick to these values, things are great for us. They help improve our laws, they help improve our government, our society, and these values do serve as an inspiration to other countries around the world. And I would say that when we don't stick to these values, some of the worst things in our history and in our government have happened. And at the end of Section 1, we also went over the good qualities of citizens, such as voting, becoming involved, becoming somewhat active. That doesn't mean you have to go run for governor, but maybe that means that you and your friends can grab trash bags and go clean up the streets. It could be something little. Being informed on current events, being good to your families and your partners. This is huge. The better you are for your families and your kids, the better your community will be. Good citizens respect the law, they understand the law, they obey the law. And if the law is not respectable, such as we have some examples throughout history, if the law is not good, they will work to make sure that it is a respectable law and one that follows our U.S. values. Good citizens also respect the rights of people and property. Maybe you don't respect the person, but you should still respect their rights. And there's a large controversy with First Amendment and the Second Amendment with people's rights. Good citizens are loyal and proud of their country, their state, their community. And like anywhere, there might be things that they don't like. Maybe you don't like some things in smoking, but can we focus on all the good things of smoking? Can we start to combat and fix the bad things? Everybody complains, but they don't pick up the broom and help. Good citizens also use natural resources responsibly. One of the last things I've listed is that good citizens would buy into U.S. values. If we have that buy-in across the board, so many things would be better for so many people. Our country is citizens from every nation in the world, and throughout time, our country has always gotten immigrants. An immigrant is someone who came from another country to ours. And something important to look at when we talk about immigrants are push and pull factors. Push meaning something that would get them out of their own home country. It could be something like unemployment, it could be a deadly virus, it could be intolerance, racism, it could be restricted laws, it could be a civil war, and so on. Pull factors are factors of why would they come to the U.S. This could be jobs, this could be tolerance, it could be access to education, and throughout our history, our government has been struggling with immigration. Take a look at the graph. All of these surges in immigration can totally be explained by push and pull factors. For instance, if you check out in the mid-1800s, a giant population of Irish immigrants would come because of the Irish potato famine, something that we've talked about in history classes, PA history, US history, and even in civics before. So immigration would start with the natives. Our country would be populated with these immigrants as much as 100 million in the two continents. In continental U.S., probably something more like 12 million, over 350 different tribes and over 250 different languages spoken. This is just something important I like to stress because a lot of times we think that there's just pockets of people sitting around because when Europeans would eventually come, in some cases that was true, because disease would totally wipe out natives. Our government has had a history of encouraging and really helping immigrants, but at the same time, discouraging and restricting immigration. It is like a love-hate relationship. The political landscape is always changing. For instance, we're in a pandemic, so immigration now from countries would be like a poor idea. Now, maybe there's other times, such as during maybe the world wars, that maybe we do want to open up immigration so that we can have help. As the political landscape is always changing, sometimes the answer is a more right-wing answer that maybe you should go with the Republican response. But then sometimes, depending on the circumstances, maybe we do go for a left-wing answer, that there is a better response between the Democrats, and that's fine. Since it's always shifting, we need a constant dialogue between the two. Now, there are two ways to become a citizen. You can be born or naturalized. Or if one of your parents is born in the U.S., then you are a U.S. citizen as well. Being naturalized is the legal process for an alien to become a citizen. Alien meaning not a citizen of the country. This process is very difficult. I've tried to break down into 5 steps, but it's more complicated than that. You have to be 18 years old to apply lawfully. You've had to live in the U.S. for 3 to 5 years. You've had to live in a state for 3 months. You'd have to demonstrate good morals, U.S. values, be able to read, write, and speak in English. And you'd have to be knowledgeable of U.S. history, civics, and government principles. Last, you'd have to take an oath of allegiance, and then you can become a U.S. citizen. Chapter 1, Section 3, we look at the census. The U.S. Census is an official collection of information on its population, and this is taking part in 2020. This does include demographic information, and that's just different categories such as ethnic backgrounds, occupations, religion, family size, your age, and so on. Next, we looked at how populations grow. This is pretty obvious for a lot of you, but natural increase is one, are more people being born than are dying. The next one is adding territory. This would also include their population and ours. Immigration is another way to increase our population. Our population and society has changed throughout history, but some current trends we're seeing are households are more likely to divorce and have less children. Women's roles and opportunities in work and education have grown substantially. We are getting older and older due to so many different factors. And last, we have a more diverse nation than ever ethnically. Many people have been moving to cities. Moves to suburbs has been more recent in our history. There's a large movement in the 1960s that 1/3 of our population moved to suburbs. Last, the movement to the Sun Belt. We'll wrap it up now with some review questions, which I'd love for you to post. in the comments below along with the bell ringer. But first, explain why you should study civics, or maybe you can argue, we shouldn't study civics. This isn't important. It's not going to affect me or my job and so on. 2, listen, explain the U.S. values. Number 3, explain who is considered a U.S. citizen. 4, describe what the census is and how it's been changing. Like, what are the current trends in our population's data? And please comment that stuff below. Thanks again for watching. As always, participate. Let me know what questions you have. Give comments. You can fact check me, tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. Keep it civil if you guys are arguing with me or each other. Let me know if you also have any other resources that you want to share with us. And any feedback, if you want to even just email me it privately. Let me know what is working, what is not working, any suggestions you have to make this better for all of us. Let me know. Stay safe, thanks, and see ya.